Today, my role is to talk a little bit about what innovation is, where I've seen it, and what it could be for you all. And my first thought goes to a hamburger. I'm a big hamburger fan. I hope you are as well in your own way. I remember in college coming back to Dallas, where I grew up, and my buddy Daniel saying, "Bro, I have got the best burger place that you need to try." And I said, okay, I'm always down to try something new. And he took me to a place called Cosmic Cafe in Dallas. I'd never been there. It looked a little odd. So I went in there, ordered the hamburger, and took a bite, and it was incredible. It had everything I wanted in a burger. The bun was perfect. The toppings were fantastic. It was great. And then Daniel, and the only way that Daniel could do, said, look at the bottom of the menu. And I went down and looked at the bottom of the menu and it said vegetarian only restaurant in Dallas, Texas. Say what? What did I just eat? Because here's the thing, it looked like a burger, it cooked like a burger, it tasted like a burger, it even had the red inside. I won't go there, it's early in the morning, like a burger, but there was no beef in it. Instead, the burger was made out of a plant-based alternative that even has that redness from beet juice that was put in the burger. It's a company called Beyond Meat. And now you can buy these Beyond Meat burgers anywhere, in most places, at most restaurants. You can even buy it at Whole Foods today. Beyond Meat is a health driven disruption in the food business. In business, more often than not, change requires disruption. Change requires disruption. I mean, think about the car industry. Detroit used to be the backbone of the car industry. American muscle cars, you all know that, right? And they were caught off guard with the oil embargo in the 1970s that disrupted common trends of car producing. Small, more efficient Japanese car companies entered into the market, making these all sorts of different quick cars that were easy to make, sort of disrupting the traditional powerhouses that were known here in the States. And today, car companies are scrambling to keep up with the marketing of electric and self-driving cars, which are disrupting former models of transportation. And if you remember, in 2021, Ford released its first completely electric F-150. Can you imagine the F-150 being completely electric? Henry Ford, of course, the founder of Ford Motor Company, is quoted by saying, if I had asked the public what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Innovation is important in the life of our ministry, and change requires disruption, which requires innovation. That's an equation for you all to hold on to. Change requires disruption, requires innovation. To change, there must be disruption. Let me ask you, room full of United Methodists, have there been any disruptions happening recently in your places of ministry? Uh-huh. Yeah. Please don't
Oh,
turn.
yeah.
Oh yeah, there it is. I was gonna say not everyone turn mute off real fast, but people can I can see your mouth moving amen wherever you're sitting at, right? Um, something that's turned your work perhaps upside down. What disruptions have come to your mind? What can you think of? They could be small, micro disruptions, or those macro, large disruptions in your life. And for me, innovation is at its root based in process. A lot of times we think innovation is those aha moments of light bulbs and then quick response. But actually, innovation at its best is done in process. And so there's 5 steps in innovation that I think are healthy for us to kind of keep in mind when we're thinking about how to do innovation correctly. The first is describing. First step called describing. So create a description. What's healthy to do is create a description of the thing or the event or the community where disruption has occurred. right? Write it out, describe it, paint it, make it into something that you can kind of see. The next step is called interpreting. So, what's at stake with the disruption? What needs to be built up or broken down based on the disruption that you have described in the first step? What are we seeing? So, describing, step one, interpreting, step two. The next question is norming. Sorry, not next question. The next step is norming. Asking yourself, are we on the same page? That's huge because there can be a disruption and you can have a few people in the room who are going to actually make the innovation happen, but they might not be on the same page. Is everybody trusting one another who is helping to play a role in the innovative process? Are we on the same page? Does everyone trust each other before we can move forward? The fourth step is ideating or prototyping. This is the wonder and working of workshopping, of thinking of those ideas. Someone at once told me that it's kind of this blue sky process where you just get a whiteboard, chalkboard, whatever you can find, and just start writing those ideas down. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is off the board. It's blue skies. There's possibilities that abound. And then the fifth step is implementing. So putting the ball in play. I remember my dad telling me as a kid when I go up to plate, Michael, you don't have to hit a home run every time. And I'd go up there. I think one time I did the Babe Ruth pointing the bat, kind of move, and my dad shaking his head. What are you doing, son? He says, you don't have to hit a home run every time. You just got to put the ball in play. You got to put the ball in play. How many of you Astro fans were just screaming at the TV, put the ball in play against the Rangers, right? Put the ball in play. You don't have to hit a home run every time, but putting the ball in play. And there's actually a secret sixth step, and that is called do it over again. So start the process again, go back through 1 through 5, describing, interpreting, norming, prototyping, ideating is that fourth one, and then implementing, and do it over and over again. And that is the process. Keep going back, try it again. Thomas Edison, a pretty important innovator in our lifetime, is attributed to constantly saying this: there's a way to do it better, and I'm going to find it. So where in your ministry, brothers and sisters, is there a better way to do something that you have noticed, that has been percolating, that is showing up right before your eyes? And here's the kicker: it can't get out of your head. You keep seeing that same thing. You're like, good Lord, it's still there. Or what if this was here? There's a better way to do this. And it's okay to name that. And my prayer is, if you're a lay person, that your minister hears that with open ears, right? And if you're a minister, your district superintendent and leaders around you and your laity hear you with those ears to say, there's a better way to do this. Innovation, or any type of progress for that matter, cannot happen without change. And this means that it is not only important to accept that change is necessary, it's a necessary part of any kind of creative thing you do, but the fact that you may be the person in your particular context to proactively drive it. It might be you, friends. That's why you're maybe on this call at 10:50 on a Saturday morning, because there's something inside of you that's excited about what could be new, a better way to do something. And the best way to drive change is to embrace it, not fear it. To embrace it, not fear it. There's 3 questions I want you all to begin to kind of ask that has been helpful for innovation process in the conference, and I think would be helpful for all of you in your own context. Here's the 3 questions. What do you need to, number 1, what do you need to say no to in order to unlock the potential of something great? In short, what do you need to say no to? Bishop Harvey already evoked Steve Jobs' name. He's the co-founder of a little company called Apple, kind of on the outskirts of No, right? And he said, innovation comes from saying no to 1,000 things. Wow. What things were left, on the editing table at Apple before it became what we know as the iPhone or the MacBook or whatever device that you love or care for. Innovation comes from saying no to 1,000 things. So part of innovation is being okay saying no. And that's hard sometimes. Number two is, and again, Bishop stealing my material. I'm okay with that. She can have it all. What would it look like to fail forward in your work? I went to seminary in Chicago at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary and came down to Houston. And I work at a Memorial Drive Methodist church as one of the pastors. And I brought with me from my Chicago days this service called Electronica Ash Wednesday. Now, let me tell you, I don't know what I was thinking at 26 when I brought that idea to the programs team at the church. They looked at me like, who is this Chicago kid trying to do something in Texas? Keep that north of the Mason-Dixon line, right? what are you doing bringing down here? And my pastor at the time, my senior pastor, Dr. Chuck Simmons, looked at me and said, let's give this a try. And I'm telling you, he did a lot for me in my tenure at Memorial Drive and his time with me. But that was maybe one of the most important things he did. That in the middle of this group who were kind of doubting me, he gave this 26-year-old a chance to just respond, a chance to try something new, a chance to think outside the box. And did it land? No, but it did land. And it came with it came with all sorts of growing pains and changes and shifts. And today it still happens at the church with a bunch of different edits. But that came with the grace that I received from Dr. Simmons to give something a try that was outside of the box. I was able to fail forward. The great Brene Brown, who's a professor at University of Houston, written tons of books. I call her Saint Brene. She writes this, that there is no innovation and creativity without failure, period. So what does it look like failing forward in your context? And the last question is, what is that stirring yes in your heart that won't let you go? What's the stirring yes in your heart that won't let you go? I think 2 Timothy 1:7 implies here, right? For God gave us a spirit of what? Not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. I love the quote from William McKnight. He helped start a sandpaper company that would later turn into what we know as 3M today. He made things that stuck. And I hope this quote sticks with you. He says this: listen to anyone with an original idea, no matter how absurd, Electronica Ash Wednesday, no matter how absurd it may sound at first. If you put fences around people, you get sheep. Give people the room they need. Let me tell you, friends, we here at the Texas Annual Conference are tired of a bunch of sheep in our midst. We want to give you room to be innovative, to turn your creative ideas in the midst of disruption into possibilities of the future. And so I hope those 3 guiding questions, along with those steps of innovation, can be helpful tools for you all as you're moving into the grant writing process. Innovation looks different in every context, and I pray that it will be flourishing wherever you serve today. Thank you, Melissa, for the time, and I'm excited you're all a part of this conversation.
Michael, thank you so much for those guiding questions and those principles and steps that we can all share with our teams. We want you now to be able to hear from one of the grant recipients, Reverend Christy Hale.
My name's Christy Hale. I serve at Faith United Methodist Church in Finette. So the process is called HEART, Healing Artistic relational transformation. And so the idea really was to have kids engaged in art ministries, whether it's vocal, instrumental, whether it's painting, it's sculpting, it's graphic design, and letting that be the median for us to build relationships. We know that music in particular crosses hemispheres and helps create space for healing to happen, that it isn't necessarily, well, you just do this enough times. No, it opens up in the brain and helps new connections to be made. So the next phase is actually now spending the money that we were given. And so we're going to be purchasing instruments. We're going to be actually purchasing some supplies for bigger art projects. And so canvases and specific kinds of paint to be able to do some murals that will be part of our Advent celebration that will be there, and finding a way then to share that beyond being within the church. And so then once we get the instruments, begin to set up times for classes that isn't necessarily, because we know Wednesday nights are busy for lots of people. And so trying to then find that time where we can get small group commitment, not where we have to have 15 people to make this class, but intentionally small classes. And then to use that as an opportunity to build relationships, both with those that are in the class and beyond.
A beautiful example, Reverend Christy Hale was one of the recipients in the past, and her congregation. And it may spark some ideas for you. I think too, these innovation grants are meant to spark an idea or a program, but as you heard her say, it was something that has really continued and helped them further shape their ministry. And it's been a long-term project. So one of the other voices that we wanted to add to our thinking here in the Texas Annual Conference is Reverend Michael Beck. And he is a pastor in the Florida Annual Conference. He leads a number of Fresh Expressions, which is a movement that came out of Methodists in the United Kingdom. As you well know, the form of church in England and the UK and Europe has changed dramatically. And we in the United States are beginning to experience some of what they have. And so how do you create connection points for people that are hungry and really curious about a spiritual conversation, but may not come to church? Reverend Michael Beck has done a lot of work in this regard. He now directs the United Methodist Fresh Expressions movement. I had a chance recently to have a conversation with him, and his theological framing of what innovation is, I think will be really helpful in our conversation. He also is plugging a commercial at the end for the very first nationwide in the United States Fresh Expressions Conference that will be in February 2024. He and I have spoken, and I've got a discount code that I can share with you for that gathering, which will be in Charlotte, North Carolina. It'll be a chance to hear what's going on there. When people think about this concept of innovation, it can feel overwhelming. And so, particularly for local churches, how do they take something they've kind of known in their gut, they're being called to, and then to be innovative? Like how do you just kind of get started on the journey?
Yeah, I always want to be a little bit of cautious of using the terminology of innovation in the church. And there's a cycle of permanent innovation that is killing people. So there's like always, we have to be innovating. We have to be doing the new thing. We have to be, and it actually in our culture, that's a personal thing. Like each person's kind of innovating their identity constantly. And then that feels fatigue. Like I can't do that forever. Like we get burnt out. And I don't think innovation in the way of Jesus is like that. It's about the new creation. It's about us accessing the imagination of God and what God wants to bring forth into a community or into a ministry. And it's not about our activity or our ingenuity. It's about really listening and discerning what God's doing in people's lives and community, and then join into that. And when it's that posture, it's not me having to do something. I'm not the primary actor. God's the actor. We're trying to join into that. So, and also Jesus doesn't talk about doing big things and planning mega churches, right? Jesus didn't do that. Like, he failed as a mega church planner in his earthly ministry, right? But it was about small, seeds and sowers. It was about, a little cup of cold water that you give to a little one becomes the trophic cascade of God's grace in the new creation. And it's those little small acts that we can do in a church that can really change things. Let me give a couple examples. So many of our churches already have food pantries, right? And people that come to those. So it's an easy, logical next step to create a community dinner for the folk that come to my food pantry and throw a big banquet meal once a week. Those relationships are already there. Well, now we got a dinner church. Now we're sharing a Jesus story. Now we're talking about, what's God doing in your life? And now I have, 70, 80 people coming to my dinner church that don't go to church anywhere else, but they're having conversation about Jesus. And it would just be that little small shift. Like Larry, he'd love to go to the dog park and hang out with people in the dog park. And we just started to say, Larry, what would it look like if that little community that you gather with in the dog park could become like it's something you already do every week. It's not trying to add something to your life. It's not putting another program into your life. What if we just came out there with you and we supported you in that, and we had spiritual conversations? And that's how Pause of Praise was born. It's church that happens in a dog park. So it's usually those little small relational organic things that are already part of our life that can really have kind of kingdom significance.
It's exciting, and it all flows out of our own new creation story, and thinking about that space that the light returned, the spark returned. We're sharing this with a group of churches across the Texas Annual Conference, and I wonder if you'll give a plug for an upcoming event, the Fresh Expressions Gathering in February 2024. Briefly tell us, what is the Fresh Expressions movement in the United Methodist Church, and then an invitation to laity and clergy who may want to attend.
Awesome. And Melissa, if I can, let me use your language of new creation there to like kick it off. I think that's the other thing about innovation. God says, behold, I'm making all new things. I'm making all things new. I'm not making all new things. And innovation from a worldly perspective is all new things. Like, I got the new upgrade, the new update, and then I throw the old thing away. Culture of waste, consumerism. God's saying, no, I'm imbuing all things with new life. I'm making all things new. And so when people hear about the Fresh Expressions movement, they may get this, oh, it's the new thing. It's actually primitive Methodism reawakened for the 21st century. Primitive Methodism that was about a missional impulse and field preaching and little small groups of people getting together trying to figure out what following Jesus looks like. But now that's happening in the 21st century, and dog parks and tattoo parlors and burrito joints and rehabs, and basically anywhere people can gather around the risen Jesus. So it's a movement of church for people that don't go to church or are not currently connected with any church, but it lives in a blended ecology. So it's not dismissing the inherited church or the traditional church or saying that's irrelevant now. It's actually a both and way. It's Jerusalem and Antioch. It's centered and it's distributed. So it gives life and symbiotic relationship to the inherited church. But we'll see these little churches kind of living in connection with traditional congregations, and the traditional congregations grow as a result, and we kind of create these little pockets of healing in Jesus all over the place. So there's a whole big national gathering coming up. It's the first ever Fresh Expressions gathering, and Fresh Expressions is a spirit-led, distinctly Wesleyan a movement of new Christian communities that serve the present age, in the words of Charles Wesley. And so February 7th through 9th, we're going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're going to learn from Methodist practitioners, scholars, thought leaders, all across the connection that are going to be there. And it's going to be a non-conferencey conference. So it's going to be the embodiment of fresh expressions. We're going to have TED Talk type things and panels and dream spaces and collaborative places, and then immersion where these things are actually happening in Charlotte, that we can go out and visit and be part of those things too. So yeah, please come, get it on your calendar. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate your time today. We're gonna now hear from Pastor Soledad, who was also one of the grant recipients. She is going to offer her experience in a program they created.
My name is Soledad de la Cerda. The name of my project is the Disability Project, and I start in the phase 1, que es especially for families with children with a special need between 4 and 10 years old. The last Saturday every month, we receive the family with the children with disability. We had children from Katy, from Sugarland, and also from where the church is. So they traveling 1 hour to come in for our program. What we did with these children is amazing, because we teach everyone to know who is God, why each one of them is very important for God. And we treat everyone by name, not by condition, you know, because the only we need is love. The only condition we need to give them is love. Love with sincerity, with authenticity, and trust in God that He showed us the way until finding the totally inclusiveness to everyone.
I want to get Pastor Soledad's cell number and just have her give me a pep talk every day. Such excitement that we have in our annual conference right now, and the great things going on. Hopefully your time in the breakout session was helpful. We want to our goal is to wrap up by noon today, and there'll be a chance to hang around if you have additional questions. But B. Garza has put together a really helpful presentation on some of the nuts and bolts of writing an effective grant proposal. And B, we'll now hear your proposal, and I'll run the slides for you.
Thank you. I'm going to be very short, actually, because we do want to have a few minutes for questions and answers. However, I also have told the group that we had as a breakout that they're going to hear the process, et cetera, and some information. So we also want to get Deborah to do that, but I'll go ahead and go on first. First slide. There, I was asked to share what is, how do you write a good grant? Well, the good grant requires for you to do something, and then I'm going to share a little bit about what the evaluation committee is going to be looking for. Your overview needs to be concise, yet detailed and inclusive. So do not leave anything out because you think it's unimportant or insignificant. It's better to share too much than for the evaluating committee to have questions about your project. So think about it, and remember what Reverend Beck said, what Michael has said, what the bishop has said. There is no new idea in the world. There just isn't. But so your idea is innovative and it's creative based on the community you are serving. So keep that in mind, and do not shy away from writing your proposal and sending it to us. You may not get the funds you're asking for, but at least you're starting to share your idea and getting greater comfortable with that. The timeline, be realistic. Be realistic about your timeline and meet all our deadlines. There's some deadlines in that proposal process. Look at them and don't be left out because you didn't send it on time. The important thing is to get started, so get your timeline done. But also remember, we're not looking to say, oh, you got it started and you said you're going to finish in 3 months and you did. We know things happen, but be realistic about your timeline. It's easy to overcommit. Let's move to budget because I want to be really fast here. Put everything in that budget. I mean, everything. We have a maximum, which is 10,000. Your budget should not be focusing on that 10,000. Your budget should focus on everything it's going to take for your project to be successful. Now, that budget may be way over 10,000. When you ask us for that amount that you think we might be able to fund for you, share with us where you're going to fund all the other. Do you have partners? Do you already have some seed money from somewhere? Do you anticipate funding it through your church budget? Share that information in your write-up. Let me see here what else is here. You're going to hear in a minute from Deborah Hobalt what we will not fund, but they should also be included in that budget again, because you're going to show later how you're going to fund that. And then the next item I called and you go, and? Yes. As you're writing this project, ask yourself, and what else? And what else should this committee know about your project? And what else makes this project important? Creative, necessary. Share with us about your community. Are you providing this project to those inside your four walls, outside your four walls, or both? It's important for you to be as explicit in what you're doing and why you're doing it and who you are doing it for. And also very important that you remember we are wanting to fund those things that help you make disciples for Jesus Christ. This is about discipleship. Be sure that you are focused on that. When we heard just a minute in our breakout session that someone is wanting to build a music program, well, is music creative? New? It's not new. It's new to this Reverend's church. It's creative because it's wanting to bring the young people who are outside his four walls into his four walls. So again, Reverend Beck, I think is his name, shared that with us. It's about new life. It's about new to that community. It's about new to your parishioners. It doesn't have to be an iPhone, but it can be that you're starting a youth group because you brought young people to learn about music within your four walls. And now you are building disciples for your community. So I'm going to move in to, I didn't tell you anything you didn't know. I'm just encouraging you to not doubt yourself and put it all in writing. And if you think something comes to your mind and you think I haven't added that, add it. It's better that you give us more information than for us to say, I don't understand what this is. And before I move on to the, what are we going to be looking at, I want you to also remember, well, my thought's gone. Never mind. Creativity. We've already talked about creativity. Several people have talked about creativity. All I'm going to say, it means different things to different communities. And we know that. Your evaluation committee knows that creativity for you may be very different for a large church, may be very different for a small church, a rural church, an urban church. You give us your creativity. Don't keep yourself out of the mix because you think someone else has already done this. So we're going to be open-minded about creativity. What we are also going to be looking for is impact. Who are you going to impact? Give us numbers. Give us whether it's, again, outside your four walls or inside your four walls. Who, where, and give us your why. Why do you think you should be doing this as a church? Making disciples, right? And how are you going to measure it? You think this is the impact? Well, tell us how you're going to measure your impact. The next item is resources. Who around your church is a resource to you? My church has a fire station next door. Can we use those firemen? I don't know, but let's go talk to them. Let's tell them what we want to do. Let's let them tell us how they might help us. Be creative about those businesses around your community and how they may be involved and engaged. Someone said in our little breakout session recently, just now, about the Boys and Girls Club in their community and how they're bringing that into their campus and how they are partnering. So find partners who can give you money, maybe, bring you volunteers, maybe, help you brainstorm your idea, maybe. Be sure you're asking your community, what do they need? You may think they need X, Y, Z, and you talk to a couple of parents and you'll find out they need A. Go help figure out how to give them A and get to your X, Y, Z. It's a growth process. And lastly, but not any less important, feasibility. Be realistic about whether or not this is feasible. If it's not, then start kind of parceling in it. Where can you start? You know, Jarbo just talked about some of these things are huge. Well, what piece can you start next month? What piece do you need funding for today? And share that in this process of our application. It does not have to get done today, and it doesn't have to be the biggest idea of your career. How can you disciple? How can you build disciples in your community? That's what is important. And with that, I think I'm going to say, I could talk another hour or two, but you're going to know, B. Garza, the Texas conference has my email, my phone number. You have questions, call us, call Jarbo, call Melissa, call Deborah, or email them. If they don't know the answer, they might connect you with who does. Thank you.
You're amazing, Dee. Thank you. Deborah, we're going to hear from you now.
Okay, and really all I'm going to share with you guys is where, just to make sure you know where the forms are. So I'm going to share my screen, and you go to the Texas Annual Conference homepage, and the innovation is on the very beginning of that. But you'll see here the grant process, and it's very well lined out. And the big deadline we talked about being on time, December 15th, 2023. You need to get everything in by then. So this goes over in a lot of detail what needs to come. And here there's a piece on here of things that will not be given grant money for, salaries or travel costs, things that you already have or the district already has. Again, the budget, technology, only when it's a part of the project. And so there's that. And a reminder that each step of the way requires your district superintendent approval, as well as the senior pastor. You'll see that on here. So this goes over that detail. There then is a cover page, and that gets filled out. It's all, again, it's one by one. Each of these forms are online. You're going to want to fill the cover page out. You'll see that you've got to have buy-in from the church, buy-in from your pastor, buy-in from your district superintendent, and again, the timeline of that. Then there is the overview form, and this is where you begin to give a lot more detail, a description of the process, Does it fit in with some things you're already doing, or does it replace some things that you're already doing? And why is it special? And then what are the expectations? So you can see we're asking you to give a lot of thought to this. Support that is needed from outside your congregation or from this particular grant. And then what's your evaluation and follow-up plan? There is then the budget request form. B talked about that. It needs to be detailed. You can put C attached, because that is how we get those requests, is put it on there. If you're a spreadsheet person, if you're a Word person, but give us where that is. Don't just say you need $8,000. No. We need detail on that. And then your district has to review it as well. You need to talk to your district superintendent. They're in on what you're going, so that they can see what else is coming from the district and they need to sign it. All of these are on the webpage, txcumc.org, under the innovation grant. Follow those really carefully, and that will give you, and then email me if you have any questions. And if I don't know the answer, I'll send it to somebody who does. Thank you.
May I add two things? One is, whether it's this grant or any other grant you do it with enough time to have someone read it after you think it is complete. And then ask them, does this make sense? Because when it's your project, you think you've told us what it is, and you're so close to it, you don't realize you didn't share how you're going from A to D. You went from A to D. But someone reads it for you and they can say, I didn't understand this piece, then you can go massage it. That's number one. Number two, on your budget, go to go to Google, find out how much those things are going to cost you. Take a picture of that and say, here's what it's going to cost me, and I need 3 of them, because it's there. Use what's there to support your plan. I have a lot more to say, but I'm not.
B, your self-control is truly incredible. Thank you for that. Thank you for showing us that gift. Well, friends, we've come to the end of our time together. We want to be conscious of everyone's time. We know we got busy things to do, and football to watch, and things to kick off, or maybe there's something that you feel like you're now ready to kick off because of the great questions and conversations to have. So a few things. Reminder, deadline for the application, December 15th. And I'm telling you, I don't know about you, but October evaporated for me. And as we move through November and the holiday season, just don't wait until don't wait till late, as B and Deborah shared with us. Make sure you're starting to work on it too. Have other people read it. It would be wonderful. I have also recorded this meeting. Now it's being seen from the lens of me. And so when I jumped around to some of the groups, it's there, but B's talk and then some of the other conversations are all recorded on it. So we're going to get this to the conference office. They'll have a copy of it soon. And if you want to share this with a friend or someone to watch, and you can fast forward, rewind to whatever part you need to show, or just as your own reminder for yourself, we'll have that available for you soon. Melissa, is there any other part there that I need to say before we roll?
Someone in the chat asked about the deadline. What time? End of the day.
I think end of the day. Yeah.
Midnight.
That's right. That's right. That's what I would, yeah. Squeeze every bit out of December 15th.
Michael?
Yeah, we've got time for questions. Peter, did you have a question?
Oh, just a quick one. Michael, is it possible that the recording of this that you just talked about, could that be sent out to all the participants?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why that couldn't. So instead of I've got it recording and saved to my computer, and then I can get that to our conference, and maybe they can shoot it out everywhere. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We definitely can do that. I'm beyond excited that my technical problems can now live on in infamy, and so we'll be able to edit out all of that. But excellent presentations today. There is so much exciting that is happening in our annual conference, and the conference leadership team, your annual conference staff, we really want to encourage you to dream and to show us kind of what God is already stirring in your midst. Several of us will hang on here as we wrap up, but Michael Jarbo, if you would give us a blessing as we head into the rest of our day.
I will. Friends, let's pray. Holy and loving God, what a great morning this has been. And I pray that it is a catalyst for ideas, whether they are ideas that have been kind of brewing inside of us or keep stirring every time we pass it by when we walk down a certain hallway or drive past our churches or some vacant building or lot nearby, that we just say there's something more that can be done. God, by your Spirit, I would just ask that you would help enliven that idea, to bring it to fruition in whatever way it comes, to be okay to fail forward, to bring our creativity to our pastors, or as pastors, bring it to our laity and begin to think and dream beautifully. You do not call us to a spirit of fear. You do not call us to a spirit of fear, but you give us a spirit of hope and of possibility, of control, and of care. So might we, as fellow brothers and sisters here in the Texas Annual Conference, might we be stirred together by the hope that is the United Methodist Church, and might we do your will in all things. Be with us in the weeks ahead as we write those grants, and help us to come to head with what we need to write and do for the future. Thank you for this time. Thank you for the leaders. Thank you for a bishop who believes in us. And thank you for this space. Now be with us as we go from this place to love and to serve you in all that we do. It's in Jesus' precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
All right. Look forward to hearing from all of you.